Somebody's TV's in the background. I hear music, pianos.
I hear that too.
Sorry,
Mhm.
Yeah, whatever.
not
Somebody's
me.
playing symphony music. Yeah.
Hmm.
You good? You fixed it?
Hmm.
Now the weekend is over. Damn.
This is true.
Just like that.
Let me
Just like that.
see. Whose TV's on?
So I didn't know my sound bar was that good, so I went to go turn off my music.
If everybody could turn off all televisions and radios and anything in your background, if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. And we are live, just to let y'all know. So y'all say anything crazy, we got it. We got it.
Hmm.
Thanks for the heads up.
So I don't know where Joe at, but we're gonna go ahead and get this cracking. I'm gonna say it. We are live, and I am your brother Mordeeb. This is another POD broadcast. We got a great show today. I'd like to welcome my esteemed co-host back, brother DCR. He's like furniture. My man David, he's like furniture. TK Williams, she's becoming furniture. Tasha is definitely furniture. And Jay is a whole couch up in here. How
Hmm.
y'all doing?
All right.
How y'all doing? Everybody doing
We're
good?
Good.
good. We're good.
We're good.
That's
We're
what's up.
good.
That's
Good.
what's up.
Good.
Good, good, good.
Yeah, we got a really good show today. It was one of those topics that actually I was asked about a while ago, and we finally getting around to it. And we're gonna talk
Mm.
about mental health today, a really big topic. In our community, we got a lot going on with people's mental health state, and things are happening as a result of. And we're gonna unpack that today. We're gonna get into some of our own personal truths, and we're just adding on to, as I say, the build of everything that's going on, and maybe we can shed some light and some insight on our journey that may help somebody else on theirs. So, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and roll intro, and I'm gonna see you guys on the other side. And we are back. We are back.
I just want to say one thing before we get started. I got to freshen
You
up.
are listening to a POD podcast experience. We are put out direct. Okay. Now that DCR has promoted his cologne, we're gonna get this cracking. Mental health, man. Let's jump right into it.
I am king.
There's a lot going on right now, and I think it needs to be discussed. And with the recent passing of the brother Twitch, I think now, not that that was the line of demarcation to kind of segue into us really acknowledging that there's a mental health component that's going on in our community. That was just something that kind of like, I guess, the straw that kind of broke the camel's back, and we really need to discuss it right at this point. I think, people of color as a whole, when you look at, our history and everything that we've been through, we have, in my opinion, a form of PTSD, and we've been through so much. Nobody really attributes, the way we are. People complain about the way we are and they have an opinion about the way we are, but they don't attribute the fact that we've been through so much and it's been passed down through our generations, and it's affecting us currently as well as, our offspring. So the thing is this, nobody wants to talk about or ask us how we feel and how our current mental state is based on everything we went through. People say, kind of get over it. That's in the past, blah, blah, blah. Not fully understanding that that is a really big component of why we as people of color have a form of PTSD from slavery, just slavery alone. And I think that's something that needs to be discussed as we unpack this thing about mental health, because you never know, just on not just from our people perspective, but just on a personal perspective, you never know what a person is really going through, especially if they cover well. They you see them and they look completely normal and they're happy and they have a smile. I noticed this when you look at a lot of the stories about our great comedians. They made us laugh, but they was going through some shit, came from some shit, and they develop a coping mechanism through comedy, and we're laughing at their skill in their art form to make us laugh, but really they're dealing with a lot of pain. But on that note, let's go ahead and get into this thing. Anybody want to open up the floor on just their personal perspective on mental health?
Well, I'll start
Thank you,
We love you,
ma'am.
because
Constance. We love you. We love you.
because yeah, this right here is very, very, very near and dear to me, and in a lot of different aspects, a lot of different ways. It's a tough thing. As a person who is struggling with, I'll say struggling. A lot of people say that we're suffering from depression.
Right,
To suffer means you staying in that place. I'm not staying. I'm fighting. So I'm struggling with it.
right,
That's my interpretation. Struggling with depression for a long time. But I've always been the one that people come to when they're not feeling well, when
right,
they have issues of the mind and of the heart. I'm the one they always come to, and I'm putting on this smile,
right,
and
right,
I'm the happy person. I'm the, you know, in the inside I'm fucked up.
right. And it's
That's
funny to add to what you just said, and I get that a lot. For a person who appears to have a lot of answers about a lot of things, for a person
mm,
who seems to process things much easier than the average person, for a person
mm,
who appears to be intellectually smart,
mm,
um, I get that also. People will come to me for their dilemmas about life
mm,
and not realizing that they'll place us in a
mm,
bubble. And that bubble is, well, their perspective of us is, you really don't hurt. You really
mm.
don't have issues. You really
Right.
Right.
go through anything because you have answers to a lot of things. So I don't even see you as a person who would go through X, Y, and Z. And
Mm,
a point in my life, I got to a point where I wasn't offended, but I felt like, how could a person say some of the things that they have said to me just as a human being, as if
mm.
I'm bulletproof, or I don't go through
Right.
things, or I don't have fear of certain things. And when I let people know who are in my circle that certain things either bother me or something was fearful or not easy, they're looking at me like, not you. how could you, I would never think that. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean? Like, I go through things too. So I have
Mm-hmm.
to let people know, yes, I have insight that I need to share. But at the same time, the teacher also needs someone to tell them everything's going to be
Mm-hmm.
okay, because being in
What
this
Right.
about me?
physical body, it's
Th-
like you need that. Go ahead,
Mm-hmm.
Curry. You
That's the
wanted to
part
say
that hurts. Right. Yeah.
right,
That's the part that hurts. That when you're so sincere, and sometimes many of us, I'm sure we've gotten a reply, "Oh, you'll work it out. You'll always do,"
right,
or um,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, you're a smart
Mm-hmm.
girl. You're intellectual. I'm sure." Um, you know, it might hurt, but you'll be okay in the or this,
Yep.
they want to reference to biblical and or religious quotes that really don't pertain to mental health, because yet the circumference of your guidance and faith are taken, but I need a physical, tangible moment to where you're being heard, right? So that whole aspect of you'll be okay, or you'll work it out, you'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, it doesn't, we don't get offended, but it is a little bit insensitive, and that's that borderline where someone is dealing with depression that may take it further to somewhere more demonic or more mental torture, to where they making another action because they feel unheard now, or they feel like, what's the point, you know? And so that's where that thin line, I think, is very important, because any one of us, it could be a trigger in a very thin line where we fall deep into that um, part of mental health where we just can't come back. So it's very
right,
important to, that we do hear each other when we speak. If it gets back to critical thinking, or critical understanding, or weighing pros and cons, which are some basic life skills, I think maybe we should work on that so that we can address each other better.
right, right. Anybody want to add on to that? Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying yesterday, I normally do my walk, like my
Therapeutic
car-
walk. Yeah.
cardio walk, and sometimes I'll speak and I'll walk and I'll talk and I'll speak on certain subjects, and but only when I'm very organically moved to. So I was saying, when that thing with Twitch happened, it struck me deeply,
Mm-hmm.
because it reminded me of myself. I was a Twitch for half of my life. I was a Twitch. I would always be the one to try to put on a happy face and try to be confident, but inside I was fucked up. I have been fighting, my demons for a very long time. I have been fighting suicidal urges for a long time. I can honestly say now I don't have those urges anymore, since I became a dad and a husband.
Mm-hmm.
But even, when I did meet my wife and we got married, I was still broken. I still, I'm going to be real. I still had the urge not to be here. I still had the urge to just end it. You know, feeling I've always felt for half of my life, probably up until the age of 41, a feeling of hopelessness, a feeling of worthlessness, depressed, you know, suicidal, always being obsessed with death,
Right, right,
always being obsessed with just not being here. Who am I? Who have I been all this time? You know, um, it's just unhealed trauma. And it's not an easy thing to deal with, as we know, and it takes a lot of work.
right.
I had put up a post, I guess it was 2 days ago, and it was from the Black Therapist. He's a guy that I follow on Instagram, the Black Therapist, and he had put up something that said, just because a person looks healthy, they could feel bad inside. Or just because a person is good looking, they feel ugly inside. Just because a person, I'm trying to think of the other thing that was said in that meme,
Right.
but I resonated with at least three of those things because I've always felt ugly. I felt worthless. You know, I just didn't feel like I belonged here.
Right.
And it's a daily operation to keep myself sane. But recently I realized that I have a transcendent ability to overcome all obstacles.
Mhm.
Right.
You
Right.
know, I have sons that watch me. So it is a powerful thing. It's a deadly thing if you let it get out of control.
Right.
Mm.
We must always, I know this is easier said than done, but we have to. It's imperative that we take time for ourselves. You know,
Right.
we have to somehow find the balance, you know. So it is just so much I could say.
Right.
But some of these things I think we've talked about in other podcasts too. So,
Right.
but this is our first full fledged uh
Discussion.
In
Yeah,
depth
discussion
about
yeah,
about
it.
it.
about mental
Mhm.
health, and I'm so glad, Dre, that you decided to put this on.
Me
But
too. Thank
Well,
you.
well, actually,
it's not easy. It's truly not easy. It
no,
really is.
because it's not easy because now we're piercing into the psychology of an individual, and we really don't know other than what we see on the surface. And one of the things that I learned when we started these podcasts, and people start telling their stories, and we've had these discussion off camera, that I was always in awe of people's story that I pretty much grew up with, but I didn't know that they were going through X, Y, and Z. And it's like I was going through X, Y, and Z. And it's like I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I talk to, people, our classmates, and we get into their home life. And it's so much that resonated with me of what people were going through, but I still had no idea on a daily basis they were actually going through that. And I'm pretty sure it's a lot of us who went through a lot, but we went to school every day. We laughed, we played sports, we socialized and carried on like things were normal, but not knowing now that we're older, we're talking about it. And I want to commend you, Dave, for pushing through that. And that's very commendable
Mm-hmm.
because me and you
Mhm.
go back to
Yeah,
like third
for
grade.
sure.
No, before that, 1980.
Right, right. And
Mhm.
and our parents knew each other. So we pretty much grew up together to keep it a bean. Like, even before I met Pot. Pot came a couple of years later, but for a
Yeah.
big chunk of my life, you guys have been a part of that. And I'm glad you pushed through that because going back to you just in the community, whenever we saw Dave on the street, it was hit a beat for me or play a beat for me. He was always putting on a show for everybody else and it entertained us, but we didn't know what he was going through.
Yep.
So
Felt
I
Mm-hmm.
commend you. I commend you for pushing through that. And yeah, man, just
yeah.
doing
Thank you.
yeah.
I also want to add, people, y'all would say, why do you love New York City so much? Well, this place was the place where I escaped. Even, shout out to my aunt Karen. She went to school in Neptune, graduated, and went to college up here. Like every like 1 week in a month, I would be up here. And I transcended everything that I was going through in my household in Neptune, all evaporated when I came here.
Right,
So this is New York City has been like a lifeline for me. So
right,
that's probably the real reason why, when you say, "Dan, you love NY," yes, this is the real reason. This is a lifeline for me,
right.
a real true lifeline. I was myself up here, even at the age of 7 or 8, whenever I would be visiting my aunt. But as soon as my mother came to pick me up, I went back to the same old,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I could write a book.
That's kind of how it was for me in the South, like
Yeah.
leaving the North and going to the South. It was a different environment, different reality.
Yep.
And a lot of the problems and challenges that I had back up north, they were non-existent. It was a different world. So
Train.
I definitely I could resonate with that. Miss Williams, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Just
Mm,
checking on you.
pretty afro. Look at it, boy.
I love
Checking
it.
on you.
I love it.
What
Um
happened? Did I
Boy.
disappear?
I
Huh?
know no, you fine. I just know it
I,
got a little emotional for a minute.
Oh,
Cuz
oh, yeah, yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I understand. This is
Well,
serious business. Go ahead.
because just to piggyback off what you said, and again, Dave, we definitely know that we have touch based, and we speak quite often through social media. But very important of what he said is that there are certain places that it's always good to remember to stay in refuge of positive sound, vibration, words. Like New York was his place of refuge to be
Right.
different, to peel off anything that was uncomfortable for him. So we, as Andre says, to carry that as we're older, we definitely have to be mindful of when to just speak. If you move unmaliciously and constantly pure, you probably 9 times out of 10 don't have to worry about being offensive or being careless to someone. And it does hurt because we love each other. And yeah, when we hear, and many of times that we've talked to Dave, but for him to come on the platform today, when we deal with love, it breaks my heart, you know, um, because it's just out of love. And, if we'd have dealt with a lot of things probably when we were younger, we'd probably be a little bit more stronger. As we're older, I'm kind of finding the opposite, that I really thought I was strong and finding out that I'm not. So
Right.
that's,
Right.
again, could be something that's a personality or character blow to yourself, to find out like, wow, there's a lot that, because we didn't know, or whatever the circumstances were, that we are really, um, we're strong when we have to be, but when now that we can appreciate the platforms or the forums for us to be able to speak openly and to just be unhinderingly you, you're no longer afraid to show these emotions. And that's the emotional part for me, you know,
Right.
whether we speak about what our problems are or what we go through. And even if we wear them on our sleeve, or someone's crying easily, it's because it's resonating and it hurts.
Right.
And, we can't deal in shoulda, coulda, wouldas. We can only,
Yeah.
that whole expression, give your flowers now.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're
Jay.
we're still here. You know.
So I love you, Dave,
I love you
and I
more.
appreciate you. Thank you for
I got
sharing
some
it.
questions
All
for
right.
Always.
you.
I'm gonna go ahead, Pot.
I
I
love
just
you
got.
more.
I'm gonna ask some questions first, though. What exactly would you call mental health issue? That's my biggest question. Like, what is a real issue that makes it like something that you want? Something that you can't get rid of. You know what I mean? Like,
I
what
can answer that.
what is it?
So what a mental health issue is something that makes you uncomfortable, that then becomes a mental internalization, to where there is no outlet to whether either speak about it or seek refuge. The whole hence to where, if we've ever heard an expression for kids to please tell if someone's being, abusing you or hurting you, we probably put that fault out in there, that if you don't tell, you're in trouble, which hindered a lot of people to endure a lot of abuse, to not speak out. That becomes that mental torment, where it's a constant mirror, of where, are you making the right decision? Do you look well enough? Are you hiding your feelings well enough? Are you speaking appropriately for people and not reading between the lines? So then it becomes where that whole other mental issues, where other people develop other characters, because they cannot internally, or they cannot positively release what's internal for them in their here, to where it becomes a mental, just like if you knew a problem at work and it's something bothering you, you can't get it out of your head and you're constantly thinking about it. Think about it if it was something, someone said you were ugly, or someone hit you, someone hurt you, someone sexually abused you, and you're never told. And now we're here at 40, 50 years old, and those traumas piggyback, another trauma gets piggybacked, another trauma gets piggybacked, and then that's where you just cannot mentally digress in a healthy, positive way, and that becomes tying you. Not if you can't bend over to tie your shoe because you got fat, can be a mental issue
Right. Right.
because it's something you're constantly mentally internalizing that you cannot do. You're not successful
Okay.
in fulfilling what you need to do.
All right. So I got more too. All right. So when I'm on social media, social media definitely hits the mental health issue even harder. You know why? Because people are always from being hurt inside personally from them, they lash out on innocent people on social media. And like for instance, like women will say things about a type of man, and people are seeing your comments, but you're kind of downgrading people. That affects a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like
I don't.
like
Yeah,
females
I
say some
don't think.
dirty shit
I,
about men on I'm just saying females say some dirty shit about men, like things that men can't change about who they are. But you don't understand that people read that, and that affects even your friends. Like certain things that you say, they may not say nothing about it, but you're putting bad energy out there for confidence. You're breaking people's confidence
let
down,
me understand.
and
Yeah.
that's creating mental health issues too. All that.
Let me understand what you're saying because I just want to make sure that it's clarified because I want people to understand that when someone posts and lashes out just on something of what they're going through is not mental health. That's a blurb to where they're just basically venting,
I'm not
right?
talking about them. I'm
And
talking about.
so,
Go ahead.
right. But now, for an example, I'll see someone say, please stop with the makeup or the hair or something in regard to that. Now, keep in mind, men have daughters. And the more negative content that this is just an example, not to just to basically just as for clarity, that if they say they don't like all the makeup and all the hair and all the this and the hoopla, well, keep in mind you have daughters, and if your daughter ever came up with something to where she did not have any hair or didn't something to need to do to cover her skin to a blemish correction or whatever the situation is, do keep in mind that when your daughters grow up and they see you speaking about women in this way, is definitely now that's developing for a young person to start developing through social media a mental health because they're seeing their own parent being derogatory, but the parent is not understanding that what you're putting or spewing out affects other people that even read it. Just like when you talk about the fat people, there's a fat child somewhere reading what their parents are saying and
Exactly.
friends are saying.
Right.
It goes
Even,
full circle.
even
It
comments
goes
about.
it goes full circle to where we do have right. And where that becomes, I think, where that needs to stop, and I say it all the time, is you can have your personal preference, keep your personal preference to yourself. If you want to downplay something and put it on social media as a tip, maybe have a certain group for that. Just don't go blurting it out. But hey, again, this is what people do. This is their right. This is their will, free speech, and however. But then we need to start exercising the ability to remove, block, delete, or whatever the situation is that we have to basically purge that out so that we keep what is visible positive around our social group. I mean, because at the end of the day, we could talk about it all day. People are going to do what they do, but then let's start exercising the X button.
Right.
Because
Right.
we know, like you saying, that there's things, we need to decipher now. Now the venting part is a part too, because when people start to vent, is your key indication if they're in your circle to reach out to them behind closed doors and see if they're okay
Right.
because they're venting now.
That's
Something's
something that
going
I
on.
do.
You need to be able to,
No,
yeah, definitely keep an eye
Ray's,
on people to know.
Yeah.
Ray's done
And
it
it
for
doesn't
me.
hurt to say, are you okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ray's
The
done it for me
society is.
plenty of
Go ahead.
times.
Yeah,
Society.
man. If I see
yeah.
red flags or
But
something that's not sitting right, or picking something up in my spirit that I'm seeing on social media with somebody that I'm close to that I know, I'm gonna call them. I'm gonna see what's up
Mhm.
with them, and check on them.
yeah,
And I think that's what we
yeah.
should do when we
Sorry.
see stuff like that, to let people know that they're not alone. And like I said, at the same time, social media is a place where people have um a level of comfortability to say certain things because they're behind a screen, nobody can really see them, And
Right.
sometimes, it could be hurtful, used as a weapon, but it also can be a place where people have a voice. And when people are saying
Right.
certain things, you got to be able to read between the lines to say, okay, what else is going on here? Let me reach out to see what's going on. I want to hear from Jay. You are listening to a POD podcast experience. We are put out direct.
Can she hear you? Is
Yeah,
her mic
yeah,
on?
she can hear me. She just smiling.
I don't know what to say.
Oh, you have a lot to say.
Yeah.
What?
Come on, Joe.
Dang.
Come
If
on
you
with
want,
it. Nah, she
I'm
good.
usually the quiet one.
Right.
You
She got a
are
lot to,
usually the
but
quiet one.
here's the thing. With her
Right.
saying she doesn't know what to say, she has a lot to say. She just don't know how to put it in
Lot to
words.
say.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going on
She
here.
doesn't know how to.
Yeah.
she putting it together right now, though.
Agree.
She needs some time. She just
I
needs
don't
some.
know how to because mine isn't my own experience, but somebody close to me. If you know, you know.
Hey, that could touch somebody. That can help someone.
Yeah, but I don't know how to express what I want to say without
Hurting
saying
feelings.
too much.
Okay.
Well,
Just
then, if you don't want to do it that way, say what you would need to say to if someone was going through what it was, how they should protect
yeah,
themselves. Start there, like how going through what you've been through in the situation. How would you protect someone? What tips would you give if someone came to us with a problem that's kind of similar to yours, and what we should do?
exactly.
Dang.
Take your time.
Be
Take
supportive.
your time.
Be supportive. I I have a family member that suffers with mental illness. Not depression, not, it's more like schizophrenia.
I got one of those.
Hmm.
And I think schizophrenia, I personally, from my experience, I think there's like multiple personalities and bipolar and everything else included in there. Um, but and it's you know, sometimes there might be something there, like as far as like, let's just say a past history of like mental illness, and there's like a situation or something that occurs, some sort of trauma that causes that to like
Yes.
be like,
Triggers
Yes.
it.
yeah, full fledged.
Hmm.
And the mind is amazing
Yeah.
because the mind tends to, it's like it's like another person steps forward, or another somebody steps forward to kind of block you from all of that pain, you know what I
Right.
mean, that you may
Right.
have endured. You know what I'm trying to say? Like
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
schizophrenia, I mean, like with multiple personality people.
Hmm.
I mean, people with multiple personalities, like how another
Yeah.
person would, So
It's
yeah, I would
difficult.
just say like be supportive, try to be aware, listen to people, and just um in my case, we didn't, like we were like a little late with stuff because nobody, we just didn't know stuff. So be supportive when it
You know
comes
what,
to
Joe?
like your
Yeah.
family, your
It's
children,
tough.
your
That's tough though. It's tough because
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know,
I
it's
think and
I've
the
dealt with it
difficult part
personally. It's
about it,
tough because they don't know in their mind they okay. In
exactly.
their
Dealing with
mind
And
they
emotion.
how do
okay,
you
right?
and
get
you could say one wrong thing
and that's it.
how do you get a
and
person that does not
it's ooh
think that
I've
they
been
are
there.
mentally ill to take medicine or kind of seek help,
You
or
can't.
because
Yeah.
yeah, so you
I've
get it, Tasha.
tried.
I'm dealing with it with my mom.
Wow.
It's it's a journey.
It is a
It,
journey.
It's a
oh,
journey. And I look at her, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Jay. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no,
It
it's
just
no,
No, go
it's
fine.
ahead.
fine.
what you just
I,
said just resonated with me because I'm going through the same thing. And when I look at my own situations, I think, wow, maybe this is where I learned it from. Maybe she's been like this all the time, and I just didn't know.
and you never knew.
And you
Yeah,
never knew
the
because
signs are there.
there are certain things that she does.
The signs
Thinking
are
back,
always there.
I'm like, oh, so that's what she used to do when I was a kid.
But
Right.
because when you're young, like when you're young and you don't have that maturity, like,
You're
you
impressionable.
know,
Yeah,
you don't know that it's like a mental thing, or you just think that like, oh, that's just how this person is, or
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I have people close to me that say like we had no idea, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and even growing up, like I had no clue.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
it wasn't a common conversation.
So you
I
it
think
wasn't
that's
a
what.
common
Yeah.
conversation, but when you look back,
look
hindsight,
back,
the signs were there. Like
Right. Right.
everything was there. Like it's
you there,
just
'cause you can
so
look
it's
back with
that's
your
why I say
mature
be
mind.
supportive and pay attention and just like listen to people and stuff like that, because
Yep.
this shit is real and it's like it's a daily struggle, but I would give my life for this one. So
Right.
I
See,
mean, I
as
struggle
you
and I
guys
go
are
through
talking
it.
about that,
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Joe, I think that I understand more so because, and Dave, my situation is a little different with dealing with a family member that has schizophrenia, bipolar, or extreme mental disorder. My uncle was shot in the eye during the race riots with a rifle, shotgun, and the bullets exploded and shot his eye out. So when someone's completely normal, and have to take this effect. The flip side, which is so difficult, because, and I'll probably speak to you offline on that, but when I'm what, almost 50, and this happened probably before I was born or around the years I was born. Um, when taking the medicine or knowing that they're severely bipolar or borderline schizophrenic, maybe have certain but when they speak about certain things, they're very intellectual and very smart because there's people might think they're stupid or dumb because of their mental and how they carry themselves, how they speak, how they walk. And then they deal with homelessness. And then there's a lot of people out there that's probably why they're homeless, is because time after time of helping, you no longer have the compassion to help. And
I always
you
say
love
that.
them, and then
I
you
always
love
say that.
them, and but then they have, like, at certain points you'll say this person 60, 70 years old, it's time that they endure what they're putting themselves through because they refuse to listen to anyone else. And then it's again, you start getting sucked in and you start helping, and then it starts to disrupt your mental health. And so
It
um
sucks.
it's very difficult. Yeah, and it's very difficult. But when you speak to them, you can actually, it's almost like you speak to a person, like Tasha said, and they're talking normal. Then all of a sudden, something triggers, and they'll go off in the subject,
Yeah,
and you're like, we were talking about this. How did we get
Hmm.
there? And then you'll physically see their
Yes.
personality come out,
yep,
Change.
start change,
Yes.
yeah,
and it's
Yep.
scary.
yep.
It
Yep.
is
because
scary
their real
Because you
because
don't
you
personality
don't know
know.
what they're going to
You.
do at any
Just,
moment.
just
Let her.
start,
Yeah.
Yes.
Let
You
her
don't know
wrap
what
it
they're
up.
capable of doing, if they're going to hurt you. Yeah, if they're going to hurt you or if they're going to hurt themselves. And um, that is something that, I just think, and you know what, this is weird, as each of us probably, this is the sad part. We probably got one. Everyone probably has
Mhm.
someone that has the affliction, someone that's dealing with the affliction, someone that personally is just basically carrying. There's and this is sad. The six of us, there's probably one, a minimum of one person in our family, whether it's the offensive or defensive side that we're dealing with, and
You
that's the
said
part that
something.
is.
Right.
You said something about the people that are homeless, like in mental illness and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, yeah, I think a lot of the people that are homeless end up, the families can't take it anymore and they just kind of I can't give up
Yeah.
on mine. Like I if it runs me ragged, like it'll just have to run me ragged. We've gotten to the point where
Mhm.
we wanted to just be like, fuck it, like we're not doing this no more. But like
You're right.
that's just in the height of the
You're
frustration.
still there. Right.
But
Right.
Tasha,
Right.
you have a family member, Dave,
That's
your
where your
mom,
mental health.
you guys know
Yeah.
how hard it's a struggle.
It's a very
I don't
yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
So
everything,
that means
but it's a
you
daily
got to take
struggle.
that time to reflect
Yeah.
and care for your mental health so that you can deal, because your mental health has to be,
Thank you.
very strong to be able to endure and deal, so that
That
you need
part.
to take that time out sometimes and take as many breaks as you
Right.
can, to just say, you know what, fuck everyone, fuck all
Yeah.
right now, and let me clear my mental health. Because if you choose to deal with more, I commend you on that. Some of us just aren't that strong. Some of us are, and you
I
know,
think it
it's
depends on
it's
your relationship with
Yeah.
the person, how
yeah, but
close
Yeah.
you are with the person.
Yeah.
Like
It is.
that's what
That's
yeah,
a
makes you like. I mean,
yeah.
if it was like a distant cousin or something like that, like I can't say that everything that I put into this one that I would do for, like, but yeah, no,
right.
there's
Listen,
there's no other option. Like, you know,
Yeah.
Go
it
ahead.
is
Go
what
ahead.
it
Go
is.
ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
listen. I go through mental health issues every day from the first of, from damn near school, from what sixth grade. Those demons are still inside of me, and I don't really call them demons. I believe, like y'all was saying, like everybody goes through a struggle, especially in a system that's against you. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it's like nothing's given to you here. People judge you here. You can't be you. That's that's the toughest one. Like just trying to be you and then trying to be something that you're not. A lot of that stuff create issues. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I've been through a lot of that stuff, just like Dave, like, wanting to take my life, all that stuff. And I still think like that, but I don't look at it like that no more. It's more of a medicine. It's more of a MySpace. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes, and I know y'all all do it. Y'all probably get in your car and sometimes you get caught in that mind
Mm.
state about all the trauma, all the experiences, things that was hard to deal with. It's still it's still there, but sometimes you got to open that book and just read it just to see, just to figure it out. You know what I mean? Because when you open that book and you keep reading it, you start figuring it out, and you're able to deal with it, and you're able to mold it to something more of a it can become a drug. Some people do. I mean, it's like my drug, like to think about all that stuff, all that, things in my past and all that stuff that affect me mentally. And I look at it and it's like you smoking a blunt or something. It's like a high that you could get caught up in, but you don't want to stay in it too long. But I just believe everybody goes through it. Society has developed that, and some people, like you were saying, some people they can't handle that pressure. You know what I mean? But one thing I do know, you cannot help anyone. That thing in there can only be controlled and fixed by what's controlling what's in there. You know what I mean? So the exterior can't do nothing to the interior. You know what I mean? So you got to fix and clean your own room up. Ain't somebody come to your room, you know what I mean? Telling you what they want here and what should be here, what it's gonna go through one ear and out the other. The only way you're gonna fix these issues is facing them
Face.
yourself. And plus most of the things like the drugs they give you for it, all it do is make you worse, and it kind of make you like it's like a number.
A zombie.
You know what I
Zombie.
mean? So it's like, because I know somebody that was on, I was dealing with somebody that's on it. They finally stopped taking it once they left this country because they wasn't available in the other country. They didn't have it in the other country, whatever. She didn't have that going on for her. So she finally, she called me back a few months and was like, I didn't need those pills. I feel good. You know what I mean? Like the pills was actually, it was making her crazy. Just taking the pills was mess because it's like it blocks your natural order in your mind. So when you stop taking them, You know what I mean? I mean, once you, it's, how can I say it? When you take those pills, whatever it's trying to block from you, once you're off the pills, it comes right back at you. It's like, you know, you're kind of wearing a band-aid. Everything that, you know, it's like, I'm just saying, but that's why people, that's not the way to do it. Taking drugs or anything is not the way to do it. You got to face that. You got to face that. And I face mine every single day.
And
Mhm.
that is the thing, like
Right.
you, like I, ironically, I agree with you, but you do have to, I think therapy would help. What you were saying about driving, let me go back a little bit. You driving and you revisit. I do that, but that's like a form of therapy for me, like in a sense of what would I have done different? What would I do, or how would I recognize weirdness or anything going on with my kids? Or I don't care if they're 50 or 75 years old. Like, how do would I recognize, things going on with them or them suffering through something or whatever have you? So I kind of revisit those things, but it's just in a sense of like what I would do better, and maybe like moving forward. Like, it just helps you be better, deal with people better, be more supportive, be more compassionate, be more understanding. If somebody's popping off on me, a patient or something just popping off on me, I know it has nothing to do with me. Clearly there's something else that is, and what you're saying, what you said as far as the medicine goes, yeah, it does make you like zombie like, and just kind of like screws with
Taking
everything. And I think
medicine.
the end all solution to a lot of it would be therapy. um I don't know about, some people that are like way far into, like my family member. It would take a little something, maybe a little bit of medicine to get you on some sort of even keel, and then we visit the therapy thing to kind of, because I don't think the medicine is, that has its own effects and its own
Mhm.
things. Just, yeah.
Right.
But I think the
Let
therapy is like the foundation, because yeah, those pills and stuff are like a band-aid. You're just covering up and masking
And you're
whatever's
making
going on.
somebody else a millionaire while you're doing
Yeah.
it.
yeah. Let me add on to that. So we have mental illness from a perspective of traumas, and those traumas will produce a particular behavior in our life, and it will shape and mold how we interface with the world. And those level of traumas can be to a degree helped with self-reflection. To a degree it can be helped with counseling. To a degree it can be helped with just being able to express yourself. So we're talking about a level of mental um, illness um, that stems from things that
Accountability.
have occurred. So that's one level. We do have another level where people have literally chemical imbalances in the brain, or things that have occurred through real trauma, like injuries and things that causes the brain not to work the way it's supposed to work. So those things have to be dealt with differently, not with you're not going to be able to talk your way through that. We're going to
Right.
need a little bit more extensive
Yeah.
work to help a person, because now the machinery is
Yes.
damaged. um,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have a level
Yes.
of trauma that I think society is producing with how we see ourselves and how we see the
Big
world.
one.
That's
That's the big
another
one.
level of trauma that we have to deal with young kids growing up, and they have this programming that's going on, and you have the natural way that they see themselves, and when these things clash, you're going to produce a conflict. And with that conflict can produce a level of mental illness where now a person's not even happy with themselves based on what they've been taught about themselves. That's a whole nother level to deal with. So we have a lot of levels of mental instability that we need to deal with from different parameters.
Mhm.
There's some I don't know
You
what
know,
that is, some background
to
noise or
build on
something.
what you said, Dre, there's another level, and I'm going to open up a little bit personally because Potty asked the question, what really is mental health? And So, say for example, there are loved ones that we have that something has happened just off site of our control to prevent. And that is an everyday, kind of like a bad nightmare that you see every day. Or you could have been 5 years old and you're still, if I coulda, shoulda, woulda, will
Right.
hem you up for your life, you know. Um, and that part is loving some people, loving our family members and our friends so much, and not being able to protect them is another realm of where I think, this is my personal belief, is that I know I've felt pretty low and I know I've gone through things. I've not felt like I wanted to take my life, but I felt like I wanted to commit a murder, or I can see how I can commit a murder, or
Right.
I better stop talking. But I'm just going to say that those things, that's another type of
No,
level.
keep talking because you are, yeah, I understand completely.
And I can't, because it's still it's not active. It's something that, I mean, I'm not, okay. All right. Yep. Yeah. So I've hired hitmen before in my life. I've done things to where I've crept up on people in the middle of the night, because the loved one that you have, and I'll even have certain people in places to continually watch this person for life,
Mm.
because it's that serious to me. It
Right.
doesn't cause me a mental health, but it causes me for my mental health to snap to where I can't control, at this point, fuck it all. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just,
Right.
that's a different realm to where I think when people say when we call and say people are crazy, it's because it's not necessarily the mental health of them. It's coming out in the form of protection. But you could, come on now, what would we do to really protect our loved ones? And now when you find something out that your most precious prize of flesh has been hurt, what
Right.
else would you
Right.
do? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people say, "Oh, you just call it." Sometimes the police, I just don't want to handle the shit the legal way. That's just not acceptable to me. That's not going to make me feel better. So then we have to really be careful, to stop playing and stop, what's that expression? Stop trying to find the fuck out,
You
because you'll
know,
be
in my
caught in the draft of someone. Go ahead.
no, no, finish. I'm sorry.
You kind
No,
of
because it's the worst type of pain or the worst type of dream to have repetitiously in your head that you were not able to protect someone, or something happened, and then it's completely so out of your control. That's the worst gut wrenching feeling that you could ever, besides of your own. Oh yeah, my job, my family, my money, my whatever, my man, my wife. That's the worst,
Right.
most ill
That,
feeling
that's
that you
like
You
a
could ever
know,
feel.
reoccurring. That's like a reoccurring bad dream that you're living.
Yes,
Just right
yes,
quick.
yes,
And that goes
yes,
back to that what if, coulda, woulda, shoulda thing because it eat at you. You can't change it. I watched somebody burn up before.
yes.
I watched a guy burn. He
damn.
was on fire, and I tried everything to save him, and I couldn't. But watching someone expire in front of you and you want to do so much, and I play it back in my head like, well, maybe if I would have did this, or maybe if I would have did that, maybe I
Yes,
could have changed
it's
that, and I
hard.
can't. And it's an imprint on your, it's trauma, but it's an imprint that you can't escape, and it plays
You
over
cannot
and
escape it.
over
Over
and
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 over
over
again.
and
So I
over again.
understand exactly what you're saying. And that could lead to, depending on the type of situation, that can lead to a
Bad
person
things to
really being
happen.
angry when things occur. You go into snap mode because of that trauma. You've been through it.
Hmm.
I'm probably not going to say much more, but um, to touch on what you said, Curry, mine is in a different sense because imagine like people in position. Oh, did you guys hear me?
Yeah, go
Yeah, we
ahead.
hear you.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, you have people in position watching a person. Um, in in this sense, like with my family member, it's like torture in a sense because you don't protect a person, but yet you can remember situations where you actually were physically there, but didn't understand what was taking place. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Exactly.
in in those cases, like, he died before, he died, but like there was like no option for like revenge if you want to go and do something, or if you wanted to, torture him slowly, or whatever you wanted to think in your mind
Understandable.
that you
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, there's no option, like, it's completely out of your control. um
Yeah, and that could hurt. That could hurt as well in itself. Like that's something that could keep you awake at night and just or have you in tears one day. Just it is like Dre say, it's something that does not have a pause button. It doesn't have a stop button. It's a constant rewind and play. Rewind and
yeah, because you're there, like, you're actually there, and you could protect a person, but you just like, when you're kids, you don't have a clue. You're just, young, and like, you can protect a person, but you have no idea that you have something to protect until
agree.
hindsight. And
Agree.
you
That's where
hear the stories, and and it's like, fuck, like,
right.
I remember that, or like, I saw that,
I think
or
that's traumatic for us too, to know that, like, just as you, the nail on what you just said, it's traumatic for us later in years to know that there was something for us to protect that we didn't, to where Dre says the what if and should have.
exactly.
That, that to me is the most dangerous part of mental health, to where, and like, say, for example, we really don't know what Twitch was going through to make a drastic decision to snap to where it's yours or someone else's life. And that's the part that is heavy,
Mm-hmm.
that is really dark.
Yep.
I got
Go
some
That,
more.
ahead. Go
you
ahead.
know,
Yeah. Go ahead,
All
Pop.
right. I want to ask y'all if this is a sign of mental health issue, because this is one of my experience, my personal experiences. Years ago, I say about maybe almost 20 years ago, a little more than 20 years ago, you know, my life was really, really upside down. But yo, I was messed up, yo. I mean, I lost everything. I lost my license, everything. I was walking and everything, right? And I would be walking down the street. You know how when you're thinking about your life and all the bad things, and you just down real bad. I was talking to myself, walking down the street, and I was doing this for a minute, like for a few months, and get, somebody opened my eyes to realize that I was doing the same thing. I saw a dude walking down the street talking to himself, and I looked at him like, damn, he must be going through some, terrible shit to make him start talking to himself. And then I was like, damn, nigga, you do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? You're walking down the street talking to yourself. Now, if you saw yourself, you would think the same thing. You know what I mean? So I kind of recognize my issues by looking at other people. You know what I mean? So I never knew I
that's
was talking.
that's a self-healing mechanism.
Right.
It's not necessarily that's a sign of mental health. That's a sign of
No, but I
self-healing.
was going through a lot of stuff, like I'm getting hurt real bad and
Right.
like really
And there's
depressed.
still, when you see someone talking to themselves, it's a sign of self-healing to
Right.
deal with your mental health. Because a lot of times someone will say we need therapy. And a lot of times that's the first step of therapy, to physically talk things out with yourself. Some people have the ability to do it and not move their lips. We could sit here and talk to ourselves and contemplate and mentally think. You're physically doing it outward. And real talk, that through our travels of walking on the train, we might think people are crazy, but though that's not crazy. That's them self-healing, which will be probably some of the richest, smartest,
You know what I
intellectual
was
people
saying?
out there, that we physically think they're crazy because they're talking to themselves. No, because they need expert advice, and that's right, who the expert, because you're an expert on self, right? So that's a sign of, it's not a sign of mental
But I
health,
was
it's
saying
a
the
sign
stuff
of
like
that wrestling mental health.
I was
So
mumbling.
it's not,
I was
yeah.
mumbling bad stuff like motherfucking bitch. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like just talking
Right.
about the stuff that I went to. I was like, bitch, motherfucker, blah, blah, blah. Just walking down the street, just talking, and I'm like, damn, that nigga, you was crazy at one point. I was like looking at myself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people might think you're. Yeah, people might have looked at you and probably said you was crazy. I probably have said you was crazy, but yeah, that is a self healing mechanism. But
right,
the difference is that when you start to answer or how you respond to it or how you counteract to where you can't snap out of that realm of what you're doing, when you can't step out of that and you're constantly doing, that's the psyche to where the schizophrenia is, where they're dealing with more than one conversation within
right.
themselves. That's the sign of a mental health issue. That's different.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, you might
Right.
look crazy talk to yourself. I ain't gonna lie to you. You
Yeah,
might did.
Right.
I lost it all, man. Everything was gone.
CK, you got some background feedback. What is that? Whenever you're talking, I can't
Quiet.
hear it. Y'all hear that?
Yeah, I hear that, but I don't know what that
It
is.
is your phone near a computer or something?
What does it sound like?
It sounds like it sounds
Maybe
like
the
when
heat. The heat.
Yep, that was what it was.
Did it go
nah,
away?
I muted her.
Oh, it's
Nah, it's
back.
still there. Is your phone near a computer? It's kind of like when you put your phone too close to the microwave or the computer. When I mute you, I don't hear it.
No.
She's muted now. You don't hear it.
Yeah, it's her though. Okay.
System going off, maybe. Do you hear it
Yes.
now?
Yeah.
It's quiet here. I don't know what it is. But go ahead and mute me.
No, your device is too close to something. Yeah. One of the things I wanted to say about mental health was the fact that we don't really have JUK. Okay. One of the things we don't have, I think America as a whole, and that's a whole nother conversation, but we don't have an infrastructure to really deal with mental health. We just don't. I think as we have these occurrences that occur that on a big media scale, I think what they try to do is they try to plug up these holes as they occur. Like you might have a mass school, scenario or whatever the case may be, but they'll take the mental health aspect of that and they never really address having a real infrastructure to deal with it. They just don't. Um, I think, far as us as a community, that's something we would really need to kind of focus on because just like I said, coming from just the PTSD from us being in bondage, a portion of us, that thing has carried over and it has never been addressed at all, you know? And when you take most black households and how they actually raise their children or have raised their children, you look at our parents and how we came up, we make statements like, and we tell our kids now, you could never have grown up the way I grew up in the house with, your grandma was, or your grandparents, they didn't take X, Y, and Z. They were real strict or real hard. Um, I think about some of the things we've went through as children, and I look back and it's like that was a bit harsh, or that was a bit borderline abusive, and we look at it as, that's just how we grew up.
Yeah.
But our parents were a product of something, also.
Everybody is a product of
So
what's
yeah, so when you look at it, a lot of things that we co-sign as being normal as growing up in a black household, a lot of that stuff has created a lot of traumas, but we look at it as that's just normal being black growing up in a household. And now not realizing we're a product of some of that stuff, and a lot of the traumas that we have came from our rearing and how we came up. Not even realizing that some of that stuff was way left. Like, how many people on this panel have hurt? Probably everybody. I don't know who actually experienced it because I've never experienced it, but definitely it was a common thing of actually whipping your kid with an extension cord.
I used, to, I used to do martial arts. It was hard to hit me. So,
But I'm just saying. You see how we have rationalized that
yeah,
as
that's
normalcy,
Yeah.
and I thought about that years later. Like that was horrible. But where did they get that concept from?
well.
And
Amen.
we mimic this stuff.
You know.
We some of us
I
mimic
know
this
what you're
stuff.
talking about. I know just where you
That's
going.
the story.
I know just where that boy going. That boy going to slavery.
Well,
She got some serious feedback.
That boy going straight to slavery.
Yep.
but
CK.
yet straight, because at the end of the day, that leaves a whelp. Like, can you think about it? Like hitting it with a extension cord and the whelp and the damage that it leaves. It
Right.
looks similar. It's the exact. That's something that is, and it makes me so angry. I'm muting myself because you said the feedback.
I was
Yeah,
about
yeah.
I remember going to I was in high school, believe it or not, because I was so young and pregnant. Like I was still getting beaten while I was pregnant, but
damn.
yeah, like like
Wow.
after not during, but like
Oh,
after.
I thought you said during. I was picturing you being
Yeah,
pregnant.
not during,
Ass
but
tossed
like
to you.
I was young, so I was still like getting in trouble for stuff or whatever. But
Right.
I remember one time I for a while I had to wear like long sleeves because I had like
Right.
yeah.
The lashes.
So yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So those
And
traumas
right after you could
are-
see those
yeah.
like, it swells right up. So yeah.
and that's it, and that is a form of mental illness on our parents' part, believe it or not, that they inflicted upon us who needed help. They needed help.
They needed help. My mother would have all the self-help books. I remember she put me on when I guess when I was 13, she put me on a book called Creative Visualization. And I don't know if any of the panel has heard of that book, but it's basically you visualize yourself, whatever. If it's successful, if it's a better person, if it's rich, if it's if yourself is elevated to where you want to be in life. First, you have to visualize that. It's a common theme now.
Right.
But she put me on to so many things. She had self-help books. She had psychiatric books, but yet she put me through therapy. She was the one that needed therapy because she had mental illness.
Right. Right.
So it's
Did she know that?
no, she didn't know that.
No.
She didn't know that. We actually talked about it a few days ago, a few nights ago. Because I have to ask my mother these questions because I see a lot of myself in her still. Whenever I see
Right.
or
Right.
feel myself going out of character,
Right.
and getting and just reflecting her mentality, I have to stop and take a breather.
Dave done said a mouthful on this one, boy.
Yep, because I don't want to be. Honestly, she's the blueprint for what I don't want to be.
But
she's suffering from mental illness, the dementia, all that stuff, and part of the reason is because of the unhealed trauma that she been through.
But you got to think about it. I'm sorry, but you got to think about this. It transcends in the DNA. You understand what I'm saying? The discipline, the whips, the beatings, and all that. It transcends in the DNA.
Right.
So you probably act out that's already in your DNA and don't realize the trauma from your DNA in the past is expressing itself in the future. I mean, so
that's
it could be.
That's why I work so hard to rid myself of that because I have sons.
Right. Right.
They say you got to break the chain. That's a famous overused term, but it's true. You got to break those chains.
Yeah, it's your job. Yep.
You have to.
Right.
I can say that I've done well so far. I still got ways to go, but still, you got it's a constant struggle and work to rid yourself of the type of abuse, the type of trauma that your parents inflicted on you yesteryear.
Right.
As
Right.
Pat said, it's still embedded in your DNA.
Right.
This is true, Dave. This is definitely true. And that's just the trauma that we endured growing up in our houses on a very low level. We ain't gotten to the traumas of uh, people being violated sexually, the physical abuse. It's so many different levels to this thing. And like I said before, America does not have an infrastructure to really tackle it the way they should be tackling it. I mean, of course, you got people you can go see here and there, but it's not designed user friendly for everybody. First of all, you got to have some money to go see folks,
It's a
and
profit, brother. That's
and
why.
then and then on top of that, the ones who um, are free to a degree won't have the level of tenacity to tackle the actual situation the way they should, because they're looking at it as it's kind of like having a public defender lawyer. How much are they going to fight on your behalf at the end of the day? We need to start creating our own mechanisms to deal with this as a whole, whether it just be a group where people can just talk and vent, and you come to a realization that you're not alone, because a lot of people feel that they're alone. But no,
The system
mental health.
sucks. The
Well, here's
system
the thing about the
sucks.
system: we can't even depend on the system. We gotta do this.
They want money anyway,
No,
though. So
yeah,
they
we
can depend on
do.
them.
Yeah,
But
we got to
when
do
They're gonna
when
this.
drug you and make
but
money off
for
it.
anybody that's going through that like now or have been through it like last week or something, just trying to get somebody Baker acted alone because they're like a threat, like you don't know if you're gonna die in the middle of the night or what the case is. Like
Right.
you can't even get help for that. They barely want to come get the person, whether the person's a threat or not. That's kind of like it's your problem. And if they do, it's maybe 1 or 2 days, and then they're right back to your residence. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
And they're
it ain't,
accountable.
it ain't.
It
And
ain't
then
that.
they go out and commit a murder or do some other stuff. Then it's like, oh, what happened to the family and or what? Like, I feel bad for some of these people that have a family member or somebody that mentally ill or whatever, because there's nothing set up. Like, we have to create that, yes, and that takes time. That's going to take, like, to even get something in place where you got the ball rolling, and you know what I'm saying? Like, but for the people suffering now and going through that stuff now, like, there's nothing set up that's like reliable in a sense where you could even feel like, you know what,
It's theirs. It's not,
this person is going to get the help that they need and blah 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 or whatever have you. No, it would have to be some threat on the outside before it's you.
And
You know
then
what
they're
I'm
gonna
saying?
show up with force to
Exactly.
neutralize it.
Exactly. And then question whether it's a mental thing or not. You
Right,
know what I'm
right,
saying? Like,
right.
especially when it comes to us, like this is no, it's not set up.
and why you
Not.
think I hate money? Because really, it's all based on money. Everything is based on money in this motherfucker.
Yep.
Everything is based on money here.
Yep.
You can't afford the right stuff. That's why.
We going back to the money thing.
Time they're accountable for it. They're accountable for it, but it costs money for you to make these programs. It's the profit has to be damn near like
Right.
impossible. You know what I mean? So that's why I hate money. That's why I don't vote. That's why I don't do none of that stuff. I hate the things that make people lifestyles like this, that make people crazy, that do that. I hate it all. I don't have no love for anything that creates chaos. That's why I hate money.
Yeah.
I work for it, but I hate it. I never say I love that shit
Right.
ever.
Right. You are listening to a POD podcast experience. We are put out direct. It was something I was about to say. Yeah, it was something I was about to say.
It's really shitty.
Oh, I have a question. Now, considering the generation we grew up in, we were tough. Our parents grew up in a generation where it made them tough because they went through more shit. We grew up in a generation, and I'm going to speak on our generation because that's the only one I can relate to. We grew up tough, right? Outside in the world as well as inside our homes, with all the shit that's going on in our homes and all the shit's going on outside. We just had to be tough kids, right? But now we have a culture where society is creating not to say it doesn't exist, but I feel like to a degree they're creating a victim mentality amongst the new generation where if you say or do something, it's automatic. You're bullying me, or don't say that, or and what that does, that's going to create a form of mental illness down the road, because now these kids think the most basic, simplest thing
Is
you
a
can't even say,
threat.
because now you are actually bullying me, or making me feel uncomfortable by some of the simplest everyday stuff. How do
Yeah.
you guys feel about, because it's a thin line, because you do have people out here who are bullying and who are saying things that they shouldn't be saying, and who are picking on people that they shouldn't be picking on. It's a very thin line, but at the same time, society is creating this thing where you can't say much because now people have become paper thin. What do you think about that?
I think the kids today are pussies, to be honest. And I hate to use that word, but I really think that they're groomed to be like these soft ass kids. Simply not in the sense of, let's just say, like cracking on the kid or whatever the case is. Okay, let's remove that. But they're creating it where you can't even give constructive criticism, or like, oh, your hair is black, I liked it better when it was brown. You know what I mean? Like, you can't even give a constructive something to these kids without it being like, oh, you're picking on me, or why did you say that. It has to be, they're formulating it where it has to be something that they hear and is pleasing to their ears, or don't say
You're
nothing, I guess.
Or they'll say, and I had this talk with my sons about, because they throw this word around a lot. Why you're hating? And I was like, technically, y'all using this word for everything, and you know what? You're not even using it the right way. Because when a person is literally hating on you, they're literally blocking, and whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, they're blocking you from achieving whatever it is you're trying to do. That is the true definition of someone really hating on you.
Right.
But as soon as you dislike something, I don't like Chargers. I like Lamborghinis. Or why are you hating? Huh?
Right.
How am I hating? Because I
Right.
don't like it.
Right.
Like, I don't get their, I do get it because it's programming,
Right.
but it's creating a society where they don't have the mental fortitude to be strong. And in a way, when you have a generation that's born into that,
Oof.
you create a level of mental illness, because now it's like, okay, society has told me how I need to look, how I need to feel. And society has told me what you can't say to me, what you should not say to me, what you should not have an opinion on. And if you say it, now I feel some type of way. And some of these people and children actually resonate within their psychology, feeling this type of way, when sometimes it's not even a thing, but now it becomes a thing, and they actually feel that type of way to the degree of now they really have a mental complex.
But
Hey,
you know
man.
what, Dre? It's kind of, in a sense, in a weird way, no different than how we grew up, in a sense. It's just the opposite. Like, we had no choice but to be strong, in a sense, because
Right.
of like, and because of their programming and stuff, they're going to be softies, like how they're creating them to be. So in a sense, it's kind of like the same type of thing, but two opposites.
Yeah, you create weak society, you control them. Hey,
I
weak
mean,
society.
their parents were born. This generation, their parents were born in the 80s and 90s. Our parents were born in the 20s through the 50s. Our parents were raised in a whole different time frame, and
Right.
and this generation parents were born technically right after we got out of high school. You could say it's a whole different time frame we're talking about. A whole different time frame of programming and being
Right.
influenced, all that shit.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So, you know,
And
hey,
this is why I say the mental health thing it has so many different layers to it
mm-hmm.
that we need to address. And like I said, you have people out here who literally have, whether it be chemical or actual physical malfunctions that are going on with their psychology, that is a real thing. And then you have some people who are being groomed Their psychology is being hijacked by the system to make them think that something is being done to them. And that's a form of mental illness being programmed onto a certain generation. But just in a nutshell, I think that we as a community are like this podcast. We've come a long way with addressing certain things. And like I said, man, the people who actually watch this show, I think they should start subgroups, sub conversations where when people are having issues, or if you see something out of the norm that is not right, we need to start talking and having the conversation more. Because like one of you guys said, I think it was Jay. She was like, early on, we didn't talk about this. We weren't even educated on this. So had we known it earlier, maybe we could have done more. But now that Pandora's box is open, I think we need to start having the discussion about this more, even on a personal level, because sometimes people, when you mention the word mental health, people automatically think I ain't crazy. And ain't got shit to do with you being crazy.
It's levels.
That's something
Levels
from the
to it.
inside, though, man, because that's
Levels
just how
and
it is.
layers.
That's an inside fix, though, man. Can't nobody fix mental health but you, man. That's my true belief.
On one level, you are right. That's some you know, some healing that needs to go on, and some acceptance that needs to go on, and that's a personal thing. And like Dave said, he's gotten to a point where there's certain things you can accept about yourself, and once you accept it, it becomes a thing where you can actually have a active plan to challenge it.
Right.
Yes, or embrace it. You embrace it, and you just,
right.
It is what it is. Like,
you know what? One thing about it too, like being afraid to be you is really the whole key. Because everything is against most people of being themselves. Everything works against you being you. But once you accept you and don't care what nobody thinks about you and all that stuff, all that mental health stuff usually go right out the door. And then also you got to think about our diets, because me and you, I don't know how you guys eat and everything, but my diet affects the way I think. So a lot of mental health is probably more influenced by a poor ass diet. You know what I mean? So sometimes the diet plays, if you say, chemical imbalances and all that is diet. Yep. That can't be something that the mind just, okay, it's in balance. No, that's created by something that you're not getting, or something that's affecting the way you think in your diet. Mm-hmm. So I believe it does boil down to your diet. If it comes, if I don't know nobody that's real healthy, that has a real clean lifestyle that have mental issues. So I don't know. Maybe there are some people that got mental issues.
Well, I'll say this in and add on to what you said, that diet does play a part to a degree, and your mental fortitude. That's not for everybody. That's only for those individuals. That is not for everybody. Because then you have chemicals that affect your mood, and certain things that affect your mood, and hormones. And if your hormones are imbalanced, that affects your mood and how you think. Then you got electrolytes on how your neurons are firing in your brain. Because I just had a discussion with a neurologist about some things, and me and him had a really good discussion. And one thing about these doctors, man, when they know that you are not completely green about what they're talking about, they talk to you different. Now, when you're just going to accept everything they tell you for face value, then they're going to take you on a ride. Mm-hmm. But when they know you are intelligent and you're following along and you posing some right questions to them, they'll switch up their tune. But I say that to say, we got into the discussion of how the neurons fire in the brain and how it can be caused by electrolyte imbalances, which is true. But we're talking about extreme cases where you're really deficient, way deficient in some shit, and your shit is not going to fire right. And that can cause some mental issues. But I say that to say that it's different levels, and one of the main levels for people of color, or anybody, is going to be, as you were born as a child, you got to factor in your DNA, what has been programmed onto your DNA. And then you got to factor in how this baby is going to be raised and what that child is going to go through in that house. Those traumas are going to create scenarios and psychologies within that child as that child grows up. And nobody wants to have that conversation, but we all deal with it. We're all product of our households, right? So, yeah, man. One of my biggest gripes personally is the fact that people don't take me as a regular person. And that has given me a complex. And I don't really talk about that with a lot of people, but they take me out of the realm of just being a real regular individual. And I have to tell people I am no better than you. I'm just like you. Now I may have more insight on things, but I go through shit just like you go through shit. And I know it's out of a level of ignorance that people make certain comments to me. And I'm gonna give you an example. When I went and got my CDL license, and I was standing at that truck doing my pre-trip, I was nervous as shit, terrified. When I tell you I was about to have a whole panic attack, couldn't breathe, mouth dry, I'm repeating shit. I literally had to tell the instructors, like, look, give me a minute. I've never told anybody this in my life. I don't watch my kids be born, the whole nine. But I stood in front of that instructor and I was like, look, and I ain't tell this to nobody because people feel like, Dre, you the man. You can just go in there and just, but this is the perception that people have of me. Like, I don't have moments. I had a moment. Now y'all know. But I stood there and I could not breathe. I was like, give me a moment. She was like, okay. I stood there. I had to get my shit together, dog.
More
really
deep and breathe. Okay.
See what I mean? See what I mean?
This shit right here, boy.
But it's inspiring though, because I've always known you from the time we were kids as this stand-up, strong individual.
Exactly.
Confident.
Get a job.
Laugh. Everybody loves Dre. Oh, I love Demetrius, even to this day. So to know that you experienced a period of vulnerability, man, to the point where you couldn't breathe and your mouth was dry and shit.
Right.
You're exposing yourself as a human being.
Right. But here's the catch. But here's the catch, Dave. Here's the catch. When it was all said and done, that portion of my exam, I did not pass.
I forgot you told me that. I think you told me that.
Now, here's the thing. I completed the entire thing, but I was so distraught from my level of nervousness. I literally overlooked one thing, and I did not pass. I had to go back and do it again. Now, here's the catch. When I came from that, everybody already had written it off. Dre aced this shit. He's the man, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't even tell everybody that I fumbled the ball. I couldn't be human.
I love it.
And I had and that ate me up. Because it's like I fumbled the ball and I can't even tell nobody because of people's perception of me. And that bothered me for a long time.
Well,
that's true, though.
You weren't gonna tell it.
Same thing. When
and that's why
I felt bad because people don't accept me for being a person who could fumble.
You're right, because I would have been in that ass.
See, he perpetuates mental illness. This guy.
I'm just being a normal person. I would have just been in that ass. Like,
this guy.
I would have pointed all the way. I was like, yo, this nigga, I would have definitely put it on you.
But it feels good to hear that from you because of the imagery that I personally had of you all this time. Oh, this brother's human. Okay, good.
Now, I went back and tackled it the second time and picked up where I left off and aced it with no problem. But the fact that, and that bothers me because I can't be regular with people. Going back to high school, I remember I can be, but people don't accept that. Like Curry said, she said people will make comments like, "Oh, you'll be fine," or "You're strong," or "You got it," or
that's true.
Or
that's
you
true.
Like people say this, and I'm like to myself, I accept those things, but at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm like, I don't want to hear that. Like,
Right.
Yeah, it's like
I
brushed
don't want to
off,
hear
kind
that.
of. But you know what?
That hurts.
In a sense, like
Wow.
I understand what Curry's saying, like as far as, oh, you'll be okay, or you'll be all right, or whatever have you, brushing something off. But there is a level of conversation people might have with you and tell you that, but it's like sincerely. It's not like brush off and then on to the next, like, oh child, you'll be fine. Like and on to the next conversation. There is a level of conversation that you may have with people or friends. What are you laughing at, Pot?
I'm
That
just laughing at Ray, man. I'm being one of them people. I can't.
oh my gosh, Pot.
See what I mean? But nah, but
Yeah,
nah.
there is a level of that conversation, like where people like you're fine, like you'll be fine, or and it's not like to brush you off because normally those things, those little you'll be fine, or you'll be all right, or you'll figure it out. That's just like, okay, let's be done with this conversation. It's over. Like you're good. I know you're good. You can figure it out, and let's move on.
But it won't even it won't even be a brush off response.
He
It's
didn't
more or
tell him.
less it's more or less a conversation
Don't
of,
believe.
okay, let's talk about it. How do you feel? Like why are you feeling this way? Let's unpack where you are and how you feel about it. Not you got it, you'll be fine. It's not even I don't even process it as a brush off. I
Right.
process it as this person has really just placed me in a bubble. Heavy is the head.
Right. I think is that they don't believe that you have the depth of an issue that is serious, which basically is taken lightly. We take it, but it's not neither here nor there, a brush off or offensive, because at the end of the day, we're going to do for self. But it would be nice to, as Dre, let's unpack. Okay, wait a minute. You always help me. Let me hear you out for a moment. Don't always
Right.
believe because that strong person that we can handle what we're handling. You just basically give me an opportunity to now go into what this whole topic of a switch situation, because now, because I'm a strong person, you don't even believe that I could be hurting,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
And they always
Well,
say, "You're so strong, you can handle it." And like, how do you know how strong I am? How
see
do you
my.
know,
Oh,
Right.
go ahead.
what I'm feeling? Don't just assume that because you've seen me
Or
handle things a certain
to
way
even know what
that
the problem is, right? To even be able to digress and release what the issue is and maybe talk it over with someone. You don't have that opportunity because you could be in mid sentence and then they'll be like, oh yeah, you'll figure it out. How about let's talk about going on the pool hall? And you're like, wait a minute, hold up. I was really trying to get
No.
into digressing with you. And it's just
right.
like, you know what? All right, we move on because we are strong. But it is a hurt, a level of hurt that the solitaire moment, like what Potty was going through, that drives us to be able to have to talk to ourselves when we really don't want to, because Potty still had to make sure he had to go outside and go places. He felt that he looked crazy. And what do you think that had 9 times out of 10, what we really look like when we are really handling our shit? Because y'all might think we're crazy because no
Mhm.
one believes to hear what the issue is. Regardless if you say I'm gonna be okay, well, what's my issue? What is it that I have a problem with? You don't
Right.
even have a
Right.
chance to digress
That's the
before they
question.
move on to the next subject. And yeah, and that's the part that it could be something so needlehead that's just like a lump or a rock in your shoe that if you were just to expel it in words to someone, you probably would feel better. You probably don't need the advice, but to have that opportunity to do so goes a long way. Just like someone I was going to say today is just like be careful of what you ask of people if you're not ready to give the same of what you ask of yourself. So if you're constantly asking someone to do something for you, ask yourself, have you even figured out if this person was okay? Have you been concerned? Have you wanted to pay this person a visit? Have you wanted to hang out with this person? Do you truly care about this person before you ask them something? Because at the end of the day, there's another example. A female of mine, I got this and all these kids. Well, and at the end of the day, I got a whole. I mean, we never verbally say it, but if you worried about four little kids, I tell you, I got maybe about 15 problems just off a rip. Not to say that your kids are less important, but definitely when it comes to life living, it's definitely more important. If you're worried about shoes, clothes, that stuff you can handle. It doesn't weigh, and so we have to be careful of what we're willing to invest in people, and don't give what you're not willing to. If you don't have it freely to give, then don't give it. Just we do have to be mindful of that, because it's 360, it's full circle,
Yep.
and it's
And you
definitely
know what?
full circle.
And you know what? As we move on to this future that we're going to, when you more valuable people are passing, the older they get, they're disappearing. You know what I mean? Those people are very important for the future. The the people
You have to care
who
for
try to help
the
people.
people that. Right, you do have to care for them. Just like, say, for example, if I know Dre has a certain accolade or a certain profession or skill or anything, then I think that it is truly our responsibility to cure that. Just like if he extended a phone call to me, if he learned that I wasn't feeling well or doing well, and he took the responsibility or the accountability to do to say that we're in a circle of friends or love with one another, then we do have that responsibility to do so. Now I know I'm comfortable to say, now I can call Dre and maybe ask him a question and oppose, and maybe he'll give that information freely. But when you constantly just jump off rip with, you have to just put that in an envelope with care and concern of how we deal with one another, whether it's with kindness, concern, or just basically silent, keeping an eye on them to know that, all right, they're fine, but as soon as they drop, there I am to pick them up. There doesn't have to be a discussion. Doesn't need to necessarily. Some situations don't really need a conversation. If I see you falling, I know I'm just going to reach out and reach. And that's where, if the whole victim situation and the whole victim versus this, if we just took the responsibility that we take for ourselves to our people that we say we care about, there is no issue. Yeah, we're still going to have mental health issues. Yeah, we're still going to have issues within what we're dealing with, but there's no issue of why someone should be going off and killing themselves due to something that they could have prevented. Because at the end of the day, someone in his circle, there's an accountability loss on them. And that's what it is at the end of the day, that
Right.
when we take it that far, if it's not a chemical imbalance, we've done a disservice. If we're saying that that's my friend or that's my brother, we've really done that person a disservice.
Right.
Because that person looked us in the face and we did not do what we needed to do. We said, you'll be all right. It'll work out.
Right.
And here we are.
Gotta check on
They're no
people, man.
longer
You got,
waking up.
you gotta check on your folks, man. If there's nothing medically diagnosed wrong with them, we gonna go through things, and we have to check on people straight up. Sometimes I feel like the Russian guy in Rocky. What Rocky is that pot when Apollo Creed fought the Russian
Rocky
guy?
4, man. Rocky
Yeah,
4.
they thought the Russian guy was a machine, man. And when he got cut for the first time, he was like, he's not a machine, he's a man. Sometimes I feel like that. It's a self-imposed prison that, sometimes I feel like I'm in, that I can't let nobody down. That's a lot to carry. I can't let anybody down.
And
whatsoever.
Guess what? I read a quote yesterday that said something about, I think I copied it, something about the happiest person. I think the happiest person had disappointed many, or something like that. The happiest person in life disappointed many. Like, there's no way that you cannot let people down and be happy with your own life. Like, there's no way to do both.
You know what the problem with that is, too, though?
You can't save the world. Like, you can't save the world, and you can't not let, somebody's gonna have to be told no. Somebody's gonna have to be let down. Like, if you want self-preservation,
for your own sanity. I
Right.
mean, I understand.
Yes, it's you against you on that. It's you against you. It's a universal thing, man. It's a lesson that you must learn. You know what I mean? It's a lesson, because everybody's gonna learn a lesson no matter what position they are in life. You're gonna have to learn these lessons.
Right.
But go ahead.
So the quote is, Joe, is that if it's regarding your mental health and your peace, and you have to let them down, go ahead and let them down. That's the quote. I think that you were. I'm not sure if it's the same, but if it's regarding your mental health and your peace, and someone's going to get let down, let them down.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Is that it?
Because it's hard.
It wasn't exactly worded like that, but that's the same. It's the same. It's saying the same thing. There's no way you can not let people down and be happy. There's no way. It's one or the other. Like, you can be there for people and not let people down, but there are going to be times where it's like, oh, nah, bro, I can't.
But you
My
know what's
bad.
messed
Like,
up,
I
Joanne?
can't, you know, because otherwise you're going to deplete yourself and then what?
But you know what, Joanne? Once you put it this way, in this world, you could be there for somebody 24/7. You can help somebody 24/7 for years. You mess up one time, you never did anything for them. That's the mentality that the world is based on. Like you can help a person through life and do everything good. This one thing that you refuse to do, and now you're a piece of shit. You never did anything. That's how this world looks.
Why you have to
That's
prioritize
what happens
yourself.
sometimes. Oh,
Yep.
sorry.
Right.
Sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's why you have to put yourself first sometimes.
And you have to. It's a lesson. It's a lesson for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like
Well,
Dre, he didn't tell nobody nothing about him
nah,
failing that test.
because
Hold on. No, listen. He was in a position just like a boxer. A lot of boxers don't take fights if they think they might lose that fight, because once they lose that fight, all the criticism is going to destroy them. They don't want to face the criticism. He didn't want to face the criticism of his failure. And that was the problem. But he has to. That's the only way he was going to get better, is accept the criticism. You know what I mean? A lot of greats been through criticism behind the curtains. You know what I mean? That's why they probably seem great to you from the exterior, because you haven't seen what they went through, you know, in the dark. You know what I mean? So this is life lessons. The universe has to teach you a lesson. If you're good out doing that, it's something else that's beating the shit out of you. The universe ain't gonna let you get by with being a perfect human being.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, it won't let you. It won't let you anyway. It won't let you.
Flawed human being. That's what makes us human too.
Right.
So on that note, it's been a great show. I think we covered a lot of stuff, man. I commend everybody for sharing, because it's not easy at all tackling this level of discussion. We're talking about mental illness and mental health and all that stuff. But yeah, we're gonna have to continue to fight and continue to check on one another, man. That's real important. Like I said, if you don't have any things that are malfunctioning with your biology, all it takes is a conversation sometimes, just to see how a person's doing. That's all it takes. And I would
agree.
so I hold us accountable to at least be the start of that in our own personal lives and our own personal circles, to check on people, and start that. And we can be a virus that can go out and affect everybody on that level of just, making sure people are okay. And sometimes, like I said, all it takes is just a conversation sometimes to let a person know, you know what? You're not alone, and this too shall pass. I'm going to walk with you.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is POD, Put Out the Rec. I am your brother Mordeeb, and this is another great show, man. And everybody be safe and tune in next week. Go ahead. What you got to say before we shut it down?
One thing we got to be aware of: things don't always appear what they say they are. Because I feel like they use mental health issues to get, just to most rich people, they always use mental health issues to them. People that got a lot, they usually use that just to get out of it. But it's not always the case. I don't believe that it's always mental health. Sometimes I believe they just use that.
You're right. It's been weaponized to a degree in certain situations. They use that as a means of lesser punishment. But yeah, that's definitely a real thing. So we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Once again, I'm your brother Mordeeb. This is POD, Put Out the Rec podcast, and we'll see y'all on the next go round. All right.
Peace.